All right, the Big Connect presented by Comcast Business moves on, and we move on now to Paolo Romanacci, who is Digital Director of Strategic Accounts at Hearst, Connecticut Media Group. Now, some of you have heard Paolo speak before. This is his second time at the Big Connect, this time going virtual. Today, he's presenting Superhero's Guide to Building Your Brand and Dominating Your Market During and After the Pandemic. And if there's one thing coming out of the pandemic, we were already trending towards being more digital, but now you just really have to be digital in everything you do. And I think even in more deeper terms than just social media, website, things like that. So Paolo is going to explore those topics, and we're very pleased to have Paolo back with us again. Paolo?
Thank you, Garrett. Let me share my screen here. Give me one sec.
Great.
So Garrett, I just need to correct you. This is actually, I believe, my fourth time presenting at the Big Connect. I presented a couple times years ago with my previous employer, and this is the second time with Hearst. And so I've been here a few times, and it's always great to speak with members of the chamber. It's a very well engaged group. They always ask a lot of great questions, and I also learn a lot from the members of the chamber. So I'm very, very happy to be here. So thank you for having me. So today we are talking about branding and the Superhero's Guide to Branding. And before I get started, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a strategic digital director at Hearst, Connecticut Media Group. I help a lot of small businesses, medium-sized businesses, especially make their way in the world of marketing, get found, sell products, sell services through a variety of print and digital marketing services. But before that, let me start from the beginning. I got into the marketing world when I started an online mortgage company roughly 20 years ago. I saw a need for a digital mortgage company as the economy started to change. And my current employer that I was working for had no interest in moving into the digital realm with websites and Google and all that stuff. So I started my own company and was very successful with that. But after the mortgage crash of 2008, I moved on and I became the digital director for Ad Taxi. I was the regional digital director there, helping businesses with their marketing efforts. And from there, I founded my own agency and then arrived finally at Hearst, where I'm very happy to be. They've been just an extremely great partner for me and my clients, and they really understand business and how it operates, and they understand the local economy as well. So I've really landed in the right spot here. So the question I think that is on everybody's mind is, why would I need to spend some time learning about branding, and branding especially if I'm a small business? And I think it's a good question. And the reason is really, it's a big reason. And that is that most of the businesses I work with tend to live in the bottom of the purchase funnel here. So what does that mean? So all their marketing efforts, their advertising, how they pitch their products and services tend to be geared towards consumers who are just about ready to buy. So they're trying to generate leads or make sales from at the very end stage of the buying cycle. And that's okay. You can make a living doing that, and you can be successful doing that. But I think that it misses a big picture, and it's also missing a lot of opportunity. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, it's getting more and more expensive to live in this bottom portion of the purchase funnel. It's getting more expensive to generate leads. A pay-per-click on Google, the costs are going through the roof. I remember when I started in the mortgage business, you could buy clicks for $2, $3 a click. For other products and services, it was as low as 50 cents, 60 cents a click. That's no longer the case. As the platform gets more popular and the competition is more intense, the prices go up. So now the average cost per click across many industries is $5, $6 a click, $7, $10. And if you're not converting, if you're not turning those clicks into sales and dollars, then you can lose a lot of money. It's also harder to rank on SEO for the very same reason. There's more competition. typically bigger companies and industries move in and start taking over, trying to take over local businesses' share of the pie. And so it's harder to rank on Google. And lastly, when you're dealing with just trying to generate leads or sales on the bottom of the funnel, you're not building up any equity. So it's kind of like term life insurance as opposed to whole life insurance. You're covered for today as you keep advertising on the bottom of the funnel, but it really gives you no value over the longer period of time. And if you're engaged in a branding effort, you start to, the equity builds up over time as you do more and more and more. And I will talk about that in a minute. So today we're going to talk about branding. What is branding? Why you should do it? What are the benefits of branding? How to determine what your brand identity should be. We're going to talk about content that's going to drive your branding effort. And today it'll be social media, video, and blogging. And then we're going to talk about how to promote that content so you get the most out of it. And then we'll finish up with a Q&A if we have time. So what exactly is a brand? Well, according to Entrepreneur Magazine, a brand is your promise to your customer. It tells them what they can expect from your products and services. It differentiates your offering from your competitors' offerings, which is better known as a USP or unique selling proposition. And your brand is derived from who you are, who you want to be, and how you want people to perceive you. So you're basically creating your own persona, whether it's your personal persona or your business's persona. But I have a simpler definition of brand, especially as it pertains to smaller businesses and local businesses, and it's this. It's when someone needs a product or a service that you offer, they think of you first. And it's very important, and it helps you grow your business, and we'll talk about why. So the power of branding, what does it do exactly? Number one, it creates trust. So people trust you before they ever do business with you. They already have a perception about you or your business that you can be trusted and you are a reliable source to go to for your product or service. It improves your recognition, obviously, and it strengthens your marketing efforts. If we think about that purchase funnel again, you're going to be much more effective on the bottom of the funnel if you've done the hard work of branding at the top of the funnel. And obviously, the main goal here in business is to increase sales, increase profits. So some examples of powerful brands. We all know Bob's Discount Furniture. Bob started as a waterbed salesman in Connecticut, and he turned it into a multi-million-dollar company, all with the power of branding. Bob's message basically was quality furniture at a great value and a low price. And love or hate his commercials, but he was very successful on making people understand that if you come to Bob's Furniture, you're going to get quality furniture at a low price, and it's a great value, over and over and over again. So when you're driving down the Boston Post Road in Milford and you're looking for furniture, most people automatically think, hey, let's stop at Bob's because they have what? Quality products, low prices, great value. Is he going to win all of the business and get everybody who wants to buy furniture in his store? No, but he has a much better chance of winning your business than if you are a nondescript furniture store. Another great brand, Town Fair Tire. They have a very similar branding message, quality tires at a low price. The radio jingle, I could hear it in my head right now, over and over and over again. When I need tires, and I'm sure many other people are like me, you think Town Fair or Goodyear or maybe one other competitor right off the bat. So what they're doing is they're eliminating a lot of the competition on the lower end of the funnel with this great branding effort. I hate this jingle. I hear it all the time, especially if you listen to sports radio like I do. This commercial plays over and over and over again. And I don't know, I never had a need to donate a car, but I'm sure that if I had to donate a car, the first charity I would think of when I had to do it would be 877 Cars for Kids. And one last one, My Pillow. And I use this one because I don't think there was ever a pillow that was a brand name, at least that I can recall in my life. And what this gentleman was able to do is take something so ordinary and make a brand out of it, again, in his USP is you're going to sleep better at night. That's his unique selling proposition. You will sleep better, you'll sleep better, you'll sleep better. And I think a lot of people who are having trouble sleeping and need a new pillow would automatically gravitate to this brand. And by the way, I don't endorse it. I don't know anything. I never had one, but the branding is very, very good. So what are the steps when it comes to branding? Well, the first one is a big one, and that is you need to figure out who you are. What do I want to be known for in the marketplace? What is my core mission or my company's core mission, and what are our values? What do we stand for? And most importantly, what is my unique selling proposition? Going back to the pillows, you get this pillow, you'll sleep better. That's a unique selling proposition. When we figure that out, we need to create compelling content. And generally, if you want to be good branders, especially locally, we want to create lots of it. That'll be video, social media posts, blogs, written material, that sort of thing. Those are the easiest for smaller businesses to deal with and create brands locally. And lastly, we're going to want to distribute and promote the content, and we need to do that with consistency. It's not something that we're going to do once and then leave it alone. Branding takes time, it takes effort, and we have to stick with it. This is Gary Vaynerchuk. Actually, I saw Gary Vaynerchuk speak at the big event, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago or so. He's a big branding guy now. If you want to see him now, you have to pay big money and go into a stadium full of people. And he's very, very good at what he does. When I saw him at the big event years ago, it was in a half-empty room at the Oakdale Theater. So that's how well he branded himself. But he says, and he's an expert in this, he says there is no reason for anything, no reason to do anything but to act like a media company in today's digital age. So what does he mean by that? I think what he's saying is that, well, let me give you some examples. I think what he's saying is if you are a baker, you should consider yourself a media person, a YouTube person who also bakes. If you're an accountant who gives out, who does taxes, you should think of yourself as a tax channel that also does people's taxes. If you are a dry cleaner, you should think of yourself as the channel that shows you how to get any spot out of any garment of clothing, who also owns a dry cleaners. And that's very, very powerful because people tend to build trust and tend to want to do business with the people who they think are experts in their field. And by putting out a lot of content as a media company would, you approach that end. So your brand identity, what's your hook? Before you start putting out content, you want to figure out how is it that you want to go to market with your message? Do you want to be seen as the expert in your field, the person who's absolutely the best at doing what they do? You're the best roofer, the best attorney, the best chef, whatever it may be. Do you want to be seen as the problem solver, the person who'll be there in 24 hours to take care of your issue, whatever it may be? Do you want to be known as the price leader? Do you want to be known as the safest person, the fastest at what you do? Do you want to be the company or the business that offers an ironclad guarantee on their products or services? We want to figure that out, and everything we do going forward, whatever that is going to serve as the spine of your messaging. Now, you may have a combination of 2 or 3 of these things, but one of them should be your unique selling proposition, and that's what you're going to go to market with. So take some time to figure that out before we start on our journey of branding. One last thing about the messaging is that the more authentic and the more real you are, the better the results you will have. Be 100% true to your personality, who you are, what you believe in. Just embrace it and share it with the world. And most people will love you for it. Some may not, and that's okay. But if you're true to yourself, you'll get a lot more fans, a lot more recognition, and a lot more mileage out of your branding effort. So once we realize or discover exactly how we want to go to market and how we want to be seen and what persona we want to build for ourselves, it's time to start generating content, creating content, and sharing content. And so there are a lot of content takes a lot of different forms. There's video, there's print, there's blogging. You can create content on social media, many different ways, radio. But for the purposes of the of most smaller to mid-sized businesses, there are three types of content that are going to be the easiest to create and the easiest to manage. And those three are, number one, video, which is the most powerful type of content you could create. The second is social media. So social media posting and sharing your video for that matter. And the third is the written word. We'll call it blogging, and for now we'll call it native content. So we're going to focus on these three areas. By no means are these the only three areas, but in my experience, have found that they are the most effective for smaller businesses to really hit their stride and turn their branding efforts into real success for their businesses. So video, why video? Well, it's king. In this new digital age, video is everywhere. It's on our cell phones, it's on our laptops, it's on our desktops, it's on our TVs, it's everywhere we go, and it's being consumed more and more and more every single day. But video has a lot of qualities about it, besides its consumption, that really lend themselves to promoting a business. And I'm sure this is nothing new to most of you, but I'm going to go through them. Number one, it builds trust. Trust is the foundation of all conversions and sales, and it allows you as a business person, a business owner, a marketer, to tell your story in unique and different ways. Secondly, video appeals to mobile users. Like, mobile is everywhere, and all marketers should be thinking about a mobile first strategy for most marketing efforts, because that's where most of the eyeballs are throughout the day and into the evening. 90% of consumers watch videos on their mobile phone, which is a lot. I mean, it's billions and billions of hours of video every month around the world. And the average person watches more than an hour and a half of video every single day. So video content is being consumed on a greater and greater basis. I heard a stat, I read a stat, and I didn't put it here, but I believe video consumption is doubling every single year around the world online. So it's incredible, the power of video. Video engages even the laziest buyers. So while only 20% of people will read the text on a page on a website, 80% will watch a video. That's really incredible. So think about if you have a website where you sell products and you just have a written description. If you're using video there as adjacent to, or as opposed to the written text, you will actually have a greater conversion rate, because people are just too lazy to read. Google loves video, so this is a great stat, and I think it's one to keep in mind. You're 53 times more likely to show up on the first page of Google if you have videos embedded on your website. That's huge. And lastly is video sells. A viewer 64% more likely to buy a product after watching video. So it's undeniable the power of video, and all marketers, I think, in my opinion, should be embracing a video strategy with their marketing and branding efforts. This is a question that a lot of people have when we first have these discussions, when I'm dealing with clients and I start talking about a video strategy, is like, I don't know what to make. I don't know what to shoot. Well, there are a lot of different directions you can take. And I think a lot of that which direction you take is going to depend upon what the backbone, the spine of who you want to be, what your unique selling proposition is, of what kind of video you're going to create, or videos you will create. Some of the most common types of videos that we see, obviously the straight TV commercial, which is just fine. You could brand your business to the moon and back just with straight 15, 30, 60-second commercials, and that's good. But I think in this social media age, we want to expand that a bit more, and we want to broaden which type of content we're putting out there to keep people interested and engaged. So we can do explainer videos where you just take products and you just explain what they are, how they work, unboxing videos, that kind of thing, product demonstrations. how-to videos. If you're you own a carpet company or a flooring company, you can create videos on how to measure this room or that room, or what kind of tile goes where, or what you would suggest, what kind of styles are in, that sort of thing. Testimonial videos are often very, very powerful and will help your business gain more trust. A day in the life type videos, let's call it a reality show, for lack of a better word. Just document what goes on in your business on a daily basis and put that content out on the web. I mean, if I was a chef and I owned a restaurant, I was opening a restaurant, I would hire I would hire a waiter, a bartender, a dishwasher, and I would hire somebody to follow me around with their cell phone and video everything that goes on in the restaurant in my life every day, and use that content that he films to put out onto social media and on YouTube to get people more interested and engaged in what I do, to grow our business's popularity, and of course to increase sales. That's the strategy I would take. And I think a lot more small businesses are doing it, and they're being very successful at it. Another question, the next question that always comes up when I'm dealing with clients and we talk about this is it expensive? And the answer to that is yes, if you want it to be expensive, and no, if you want to bootstrap it. So full video production can be very expensive. However, it doesn't have to be. I mean, at Hearst, we offer full video production services really very, very inexpensively. But even getting rid of that, you can use cell phone video, and it's perfectly acceptable online, on YouTube, on the web. The quality of video is very, very good now from phones, and that's fine. If you're just giving advice type videos, webcam videos work. They're very, very acceptable. You can just stare into the webcam like I'm doing now and just, give your advice, give, how to save money on taxes, use this tip, that tip, whatever. Doesn't have to be fancy at all. What's really important is the content. Is the content valuable, informative? Is it something I want to hear, or something I need to hear, or something that's going to help me? That's the most important thing. You can also have explainer videos done very, very inexpensively online for like, $100 for each one. Those are the doodle videos. So anything really is acceptable as long as your messaging is great. The thing is, to avoid analysis paralysis, what I mean by that is just start shooting and keep shooting. Again, document the goings on in your business, in your life, or make a schedule that every Monday I'm going to create a new video about something in my business or a product that I offer, that kind of thing. Just start, keep going. And again, don't worry about production value. According to Google, there's virtually no difference in the conversion rate between professionally shot commercials and homemade or very, very low budget commercials on YouTube. They work equally well. And I think it's because if the content is there and it's something that people need to hear about or want to hear about again, people are going to stick around and they're going to listen to it. So we start creating this content. It looks good. I shot a commercial. I shot some video blogs. I shot all this kind of stuff. It's like, what do I do with it? Where do I publish it? We talked about it a little bit. First and foremost, for video, obviously, we're going to think about YouTube. That is where all video should start, but doesn't end there. We're going to want to publish it on our social media pages. So that's Facebook, Instagram, put links to our stuff on Twitter if we have Twitter accounts. We're obviously going to want to put video on our websites. So we can put it within blog posts, again, or on product pages. There are many different places on your website you can put video. But we know Google loves video, and we also know that it's going to help your search engine rankings come up, and it's going to help buyers convert into customers. So we definitely want to put it there. TikTok obviously is exploding right now. Going back to Gary Vee, I heard him say 3 years ago, TikTok's going to be a thing. You should start getting into TikTok if you're a marketer, especially if you deal with younger people. And I'm like, what's this TikTok thing? I think he's wrong about that. And sure enough, he was right. 3 years later, it's all the rage. And of course, video embedded in emails are very, very powerful and have a very, very high engagement rate. So I would include video in my email if at all possible. But when you start doing that, the the question comes up, well, I don't have any Facebook followers, or I don't have a lot of fans on my YouTube page, or my email list is small, and I don't have a lot of web traffic. Like, I'm going to put this content out there and nobody's going to see it. And that is the problem of reach. And you're absolutely right. If you don't have the amount of followers you need to get this content seen and shared, then it's all going to be for nothing. But there's a solution to that problem, and it's hacking the system. And what do I mean by that? I mean, the great thing about YouTube, Facebook, social media pages is they allow you to advertise on their platforms at such a low rate that it's really, if you think about it in terms of traditional advertising, it's a steal. And I'm going to show you these different platforms and the advertising systems on there and why it's such a great value. And you should consider doing that, especially as you're starting out with your branding effort. And you need to just get eyeballs onto your content, your ads, and the posts that you put out. So let's start with YouTube. And by the way, if you hear a dog, that's my dog Vinny, and he every time he sees a squirrel, he barks. So he just saw 2 squirrels. So let's start with YouTube advertising. I am a huge fan of advertising on YouTube. I think it's one of the greatest opportunities in marketing that small businesses generally don't take advantage of. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, the amount of users on YouTube is just phenomenal. Over 2 billion users use the platform every single month. But let's bring that down. Let's bring that more local, because we don't care who's watching in India or in California even, but we care about here in Connecticut and maybe regionally. We still get millions and millions and millions of YouTube views every single month locally. The targeting on YouTube is phenomenal as well. There's so many different ways to target and find the perfect audience for your content and your messaging and your commercials. It's very ingenious. Number one, we can use search-based targeting. What is search-based targeting? If you are let's say you're a wedding photographer and you want to obviously get booked for weddings, and you put out YouTube content, a commercial, whatever it may be, I can target my video to be shown only to those people who have recently searched for wedding photographers on Google, or searched for wedding planning advice on Google, or searched for catering halls on Google, that sort of thing. So anytime they go onto YouTube, whether the video they're watching is about a wedding or it's about, fixing a car, it doesn't matter. Your commercial will show up ahead of it before they can watch their content. So we're targeting the person, not the content there. We can also target content, by the way. So I can, if in the wedding photographer case, I can have my video showing just in front of videos that have to do with planning a wedding. You can target competitor channels, which is really amazing. So if you have competitors in the marketplace and they have YouTube content and there's ads running in front of their content, you can actually target those channels so your ads run in front of their videos, which is basically stealing their traffic in another way of saying it. We can target customer match. So if you had a list of people, if you had names and email addresses or a mailing list, that kind of thing, we can upload that into YouTube and have our video show to those people anytime they're on the platform. And of course, there's the normal targeting of demographics, right? How, targeting by age, location, income, marital status, those kinds of things. And interest-based targeting. So I want to target people who are interested in golf, or interested in chess, or people who are car aficionados, or people who are foodies, right? Or people who are retiring and looking for, retirement living spaces. Any of those are available to us to target as well. And what does this mean? This means that instead of spending advertising dollars and using a shotgun approach and wasting a lot of your messaging and spend on people who are never going to buy or need your product or service, we're going to be much more narrow and focused and get to a core group of people who are going to be much more likely to become your customers either today or in the future as this branding starts to take hold. And here's one last thing about YouTube, and it's the best thing, in my opinion, is that it's pay per view. So you as an advertiser don't pay for that video ad to run if somebody skips the ad. They have to watch at least 30 seconds. It has to be a completed view, and then you get charged for the ad. And by the way, the price of the ads, it's literally pennies per completed view. So the value is phenomenal, and I can't advocate strongly enough for this. I'm a big believer, and I do recommend it to many of my clients. The next way we can advertise your video content is just using pre-roll advertising, which is still next to television advertising, pennies on the dollar. And like YouTube, we can target people in similar ways based on their demographics, their income, where they live, marital status, age, home ownership, however you want to do it. And these pre-roll ads are non-skippable, and they run across the web and they would run in front of video content. So let's say you are looking for a recipe, you go to marthastewart.com, you want to see how she's going to make this turkey casserole the day after Thanksgiving. In order to watch that video, you're going to have to sit through this 30-second ad. That's pre-roll advertising. And again, this is non-skippable, but it's still very powerful because we have the same targeting techniques as we do with YouTube. And it's, again, pennies on the dollar as when compared to traditional broadcast advertising. The latest trend in video marketing, and it's a great trend, is called connected TV, CTV, or OTT, which is over-the-top television. And in a nutshell, basically it's advertising to anybody who has a Roku, an Amazon Fire Stick, Apple TV, connected to their television. Anything that's connected where you're streaming programming through, that's connected TV. And connected TV plays on your big screen. It can also play on your desktop and laptop, but the power here is that we can buy television advertising programmatically, meaning the same way we buy display ads on the internet. So we can target people, again, based on demographics, income, interest, all that stuff, to show on their TVs when they're watching content. This, again, allows us to tackle what broadcast television would typically do, or normally do in the past, and bring it down to a smaller audience who's going to be much more likely to want or need your product or service or have an interest in it. And so over time, they're going to be more likely to buy from you. One other great way that we can target OTT or over-the-top television is by actually geofencing specific homes. This is how granular it gets. So we can say, let's say you had a mailing list. Let's say you have a big mailer going out. You have a promotion, you're a car dealer, you have 50,000, 100,000 mailers going out for this big sale you're gonna have next month. Well, what we can do is we can actually take that mailing list and say, I wanna show my TV commercials on people's TV that live at these specific addresses. And if they have anything connected to their TV, again, if they're watching, a Fire Stick, a YouTube TV, Roku, anything like that, we can show your commercial to those people who are going to get the mailer. So it's very powerful. And again, much less expensive than engaging in a large broadcast campaign, and much more targeted as well. And by the way, we can match up to 90% of that mailing list to people's homes. So we have a very high target rate there. The next thing we want to do is start building our social media brand. And there are a lot of ways to do this. There's written content, images, videos, all kinds of things. We're going to, of course, want to push our video content through social media. And there's a lot of reasons why we're going to want to do that. Number one, like nothing else, if you have a good social media strategy, it's going to increase your brand awareness. So if your brand, your business, or yourself personally as the face of the business, if you're present on a lot of social media networks, you're again, your potential customers are going to become acquainted with you, and they're going to be better, more likely to want to engage with you, to do business, to buy your product or your services. And this is probably the main benefit of social media. It's building a relationship with current clients and prospective clients and past clients. And nothing does that like social media. And I'm specifically talking about Facebook and Instagram right now, although those platforms can change over time. Secondly, it's going to give you more opportunities to convert. So outside of Google, outside of your website, if they're seeing your messaging, if they're seeing your offers, if they're seeing your unique selling proposition on different social media platforms, it's just more real estate that you're covering. And that's more opportunities for somebody to do business with you where they wouldn't normally have, which they wouldn't normally have if you're just sticking to like your website and Google type of thing. Social media builds and maintains brand loyalty and authority in the marketplace. And again, it increases web traffic. The more product you, in terms of content you have out there, the more web traffic you're gonna get. The more web traffic you have, theoretically at least, the more sales you'll make over time. But there is a problem with social media, just if you're just posting on social media, and that's the problem of reach. And what do I mean by that? Well, when Facebook first came out and you had a Facebook page, a business page, and you had, if you had, for say, let's say 100 followers on your Facebook page, when you posted something, almost the whole 100 people would see your post in their timeline. It was, almost 100% of the people, 50% maybe. Well, when Facebook became a public company about 7 or 8 years ago, they decided that they needed to make money from the platform. They had no way of making money. And so what they did was, in order to encourage advertising on the platform, is they lowered the reach from your posts from a business page. So now instead of 50 or 100% of your followers seeing your content, it's down to 2 or 3% of the people who actually follow your page are going to see it. And those 2 or 3% typically tend to be the same 2 or 3% for every piece of content you put on the platforms, because those are the people who engage with your content the most. And so that's who Facebook shows it to. And this has been going down steadily. And so now businesses are forced to advertise on the platform if they want to really get a lot of reach, a lot of engagement, and make sales on it. And so when you make these videos that we were talking about and you create this content and you put it out there, it pays to advertise on the platform, and it pays also because it's very cheap. Remember when I said in the beginning how when I started out with Google, the clicks were very cheap, right? They were $1, $2, $3, some were 50 cents, it depended. Facebook is in the same boat right now. You can buy Facebook traffic. You can hack the social media platform for really, just a price of a cup of coffee a day and reach hundreds, if not thousands of people with your messaging. And like YouTube, I'm a huge believer in social media advertising, because when people are on social media, they say everything that's going on in their life. They tell you what they're interested in. Not only do we know how old they are and how much money they make, but if you're heartbroken, if you just broke up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, you say it on social media. If you're interested in taking a vacation, you're telling people on social media, you're asking for advice. If you want to go out to dinner on Saturday night, you're talking about it. And all those things that you're saying to the social media platform and your friends on the platform, that's all data. And we can use that data to properly target the right people who are going to want your products or services. And so when you create this compelling content, when you create these videos, if you have interesting posts, whether they're images or whatever it may be, and you put it on Facebook or Instagram and you start targeting the right people for just pennies a day, literally, amazing things start to happen. And that's why I'm a huge believer of it. It's in your feed all day long. So we're going to get a lot of repetition of your messaging and hopefully a lot of messages from you, different messaging. And it's going to, again, build that familiarity, build that relationship, and build that brand. People are going to start to know you for who you are, what you do, what your unique selling proposition is, how you want to be perceived to them, that all starts to become ingrained with them, as you can see from this video content, this social media content. I'm a big, big fan of this. The last piece of content I want to talk about, let me check my time. The last piece of content I want to talk about is the written word. When I say the written word, I'm mostly speaking of blogging and native content. Now, blogging is just writing articles. They don't even have to be articles. They could be paragraphs about different topics and subjects in your field or in what line of business that you do, and posting those articles on your website. Blogging has a lot of benefits that go just beyond what the content is. And number one is that it really helps with SEO, or search engine optimization. So the more content you have on your website, the more Google will like your website. Google's always in search of websites that have more new and better content. And if you're blogging, that really feeds into that ecosystem. And if the content is relevant, it's going to help you show up for a lot of searches that you wouldn't normally show up for if you were just doing the normal SEO stuff. Blogging generates leads and sales. So your blogging content, when it gets read and when it gets published, and when you syndicate it in different places, starts to get the right eyeballs on it, and a targeted audience will read that content, and it will put you and your business in the light of the expert in the field if you do it properly. That goes into proving the expertise. It could help you remove the barrier that your business and established brands give your business the credibility it needs to compete with the best. So if you're blogging, if you have a business and you're blogging about a certain, let's say you're in the pest control business, and you put out blog posts weekly, monthly, maybe even daily, about different ways to eliminate different pests organically, let's say, and that messaging continues throughout your branding exercise, well then, when people start to read your content and it gets distributed, and then they finally need a pest control person, back to that funnel, you're eliminating a lot of the competition because they're going to think of you first. That's the beauty of blogging. And by the way, native advertising and native blogging aligns your business with trusted brands. I'm going to get into that in just a second. But if you blog and you publish your blog posts on other pages of other websites, and you'll start to be, they will start to respect you based on the pages and the websites that you have your content on, just by association. We'll talk about that right now. So when it comes to blogging, the question is, what should I write? I think I mentioned this, but you want to stay true to your niche. So if you are the green pest control guy, then you want to make sure that your blogging content, as much as possible, is always about green pest control, how to do it organically, that kind of thing. You want to obviously write about topics that people are searching for. So do some Google searches, figure out what questions people are asking about your product or your service or your industry. If you're an attorney that specializes in divorce, what kinds of search terms are people putting into Google about divorce, getting divorced, divorce proceedings, how to hire a lawyer for my divorce, that kind of thing. And when you see the questions that typing into Google, turn those questions into headlines in a blog post, and then post it on your website. It's important that you make your blog posting easy to read. So lots of white space is good. Lots of bullet points are good. We don't want to get into like the research paper type of blog post where there's a lot of paragraphs and people look at it and it's quite daunting. Have an amazing headline that's going to grab people's attention, bullet point it with some supporting text, and then, get in and out and nobody gets hurt rather quickly. People do judge books by their cover. So if your blog post looks like it's hard to read, they probably won't read it. If it looks like it's not interesting, they probably won't read it. So use that great headline and make sure your blog post has the best chance of getting consumed by your prospective clients and people who you want to become your customers ultimately. So we're back to the, where should I post? We're back to that problem of, I don't have a lot of I don't have a lot of web traffic. So for people to read my blogs, I don't have a lot of social media followers. So what do? Well, we do want to post on your website because it's eventually going to get picked up by search engines, and that's a great thing. And we do want to use your blog posts as content, at least snippets of your blog post with a link to the actual article as social media content. You can read the blog post into the camera, post it on YouTube. That's content. Content is always what we want to do, building more content. And lastly, we want to leverage third-party websites when at all possible. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now with native advertising. So you've probably seen this on a lot of different websites. I know we have it on our websites at Hearst Connecticut Media Group. CNN has it, Sports Illustrated has it, Yahoo certainly. You will be scrolling through the feed on those pages, and then you'll come up against things that look like they're actual article headlines, and they look very, very similar to everything else on the website, which is why it's called native. But what they are ads, and they are typically ads with great headlines that are going to get you engaged and sell the click. And then when you click on that, instead of going to a page on, let's say, Yahoo with the article, it's going to go to either your blog post page or a page on a third-party site. This is again called native advertising, and it's very powerful because even though it's clearly marked as promoted content, it's an ad, but people, even though it says promoted content, tend to skip it like that their eyes for some reason don't pick up that part. What they're looking at is the headline, and the headline typically solves a problem that the person reading it has. It could be about like how to get rid of headaches, or it could be, you know, what to do if you were caught in a drunk driving trap. If you're, that could be like an attorney native ad headline. It could be a million different things, but it's got to be attention grabbing one, and then it's got to link to content that speaks to the headline that solves a problem. What I love about native advertising is, like everything else we talked about, it's very, very inexpensive to do. Again, just a cup of coffee a day or a little more, you can have a complete campaign doing this. Secondly, the targeting, as with YouTube, as with social media, could be very, very precise here. And so if I were a medical practice that had a special hip surgery, and I wanted people to read about this this amazing new technique I have for hip surgery, I would target people who were actively searching for medical advice or for hip surgery, that kind of thing, and show my native ad just to those people. And then when they click on it, I'm going to talk all about it. So again, they can link to your website, but they can also link to third-party websites that allow native and promoted content on their websites. So like here at Hearst, we have something called Story Studio. It's native content, but it lives on our brand, and that elevates your brand because you're associated now with our brand. We're not the only people to do it. You can do it in a lot of different places. But what happens here is that people think they're reading an article on CT Post, which they are, or Connecticut Magazine, which they are, or there's a lot of different, you know, I'm sure Hartford Current does it and a lot of different places do it. But it gives the article a little bit more weight and a little bit more credibility because it's associated with a trusted brand. This is called native advertising as well. And so if at all possible, if you find a good home for your content that makes sense, this is a great way to get your stories, your blog posts, or have a professionally written story about you out there. Again, why? Building credibility, building familiarity, building trust. So when I need the product or service that you offer, you come top of mind. Everything that we talked about, that we're talking about here, works together. Branding is not a one-way street. Although you could just choose one, you know, avenue and take it. I'm just only going to do YouTube and do it. But when done correctly, you're going to take all these different elements and use them, have them working off of each other and building your reputation, building your familiarity, building trust with who you are. And if you recall, I think one of the things I said in the beginning is building that perception of how you want people to perceive you. And this is an art, and it takes time, and doing this all together would really help that effort. Here's an example of a native ad. As you can see, looks like news, gets read like news, and really helps build your brand. I think this was from a couple of days ago. So what are the takeaways from building this brand, from brand building? Number one, we want to determine what your hook is, your USP, what makes you different, what makes you better, why I should choose you over the competition, what is going to be the through line of my branding effort. Once we decide that, we want to decide on the content strategy that's going to drive that perception forward. In this case, the easiest things are video, social media, and blogging. You can do one, you can do two, you can do all three, you can add other ones on, but these are the most powerful, in my opinion, in my experience, of getting that brand message out there to the public at large. Number three, publish content regularly. This is not for the lazy. This is not something you do today, stop tomorrow, do it again next month, next week. If you decide on a branding strategy and you decide, I want to be the person, the business in this industry that people know here in Connecticut, locally, regionally, this is something you have to work on day in, day out. It has to be a strategy. Again, as I said, this is like whole life insurance. It's not term life. This pays dividends throughout your business life cycle, and it builds equity. You cannot underestimate the value of a brand. Think Bob's Furniture, think My Pillow, 877 Cars for Kids, Town Fair Tire. Brand really pays dividends down the road, and you have to stick with it for the long term. You're going to want to augment your branding when at all possible with just traditional advertising. Run, print ads, radio, TV, if you could afford it, right? That's also going to increase your branding. But again, as I stressed here, you can start out very, very small. You can start out with no money, and you can scale as much as you want, as quickly as you want. And that goes backwards and forwards as well. So this is very, very scalable. And I already mentioned you want to commit to the program for the long term. I can't stress that enough. If you want to do this, do it, put your whole heart into it, and keep it going. I think that's it. So if any of you there want to just have a one-on-one, we just want to have a brainstorming session, I do have open office hours that are on my calendar. If you follow this link here, you'll be able to book an appointment. There's no cost or anything like that. I'm not going to try to sell anything. This is really about helping you, helping the businesses here in New Haven County grow their business. Rising tide lifts all boats. I really believe that. And so I'm here for you. So feel free to book an appointment with me, and we'll converse about what you're doing and how I see the business marketplace moving forward, and how to best market your business and that kind of stuff. And it's my pleasure to help anybody that's on this call, or any chamber member at all, even if you're not on this call. You can always email me as well, or call me. There's my phone number. And so I think that's all I have for today. I really want to thank everybody for hopping on, and I hope you learned something today. And I know, again, if we have any questions, I'll take them right now, or we'll see where it goes.
Paolo, thank you so much. And we do have a couple of minutes here. If anyone has a question, they can put it in the chat. If you raise your hand, I might be able to unmute you and let you ask that question as well. So we have just a couple of minutes here if someone wants to put that in. And Paolo, great material again for the fourth time. And as I'm sure it's updated many times since the first time, because this is a rapidly changing field. As we do talk about so many businesses struggling, potential of as the cases surge, what would you say for the winter are some of the best tips, especially if we're still not going to see that traffic. If anything, we may see it detract a little bit. How can you just simply start to drive that business again while we go through a difficult time here?
Sure. Well, I think when it comes to, that's a tricky question. We don't want to be seen as insensitive to what's going on right now. And I think we did a COVID thing, when COVID first broke out with the chamber, and we talked a lot about messaging during COVID, and we don't want to seem insensitive. And I believe that then, and I believe it now. However, I will say that what I'm seeing in the marketplace and with different clients that we serve is that COVID-centric messaging is not on the forefront anymore as people become more and more accustomed to it. So I think getting the word out about how you're serving your customers in spite of COVID is where I would take my immediate messaging, and maybe would be the beginnings of my content strategy in the middle of this pandemic, to get as many people to do business with you, online, or even coming into your establishment if you have the proper protocol set up. But again, even that messaging, if it's speaking about that and what's happening right now, will start to build trust with you as a business person, a business owner, and or your business itself. And so that should be part of the content strategy, because it's what's happening right now in the world, and ignoring it would be a mistake. But again, I'm not seeing that. What I'm seeing is that's not the core of their messaging right now, if that makes any sense.
No, lots of sense. We did have a question here about recommendations for video equipment, camera stabilizing. Obviously you can go really overboard and get the top of the line. Do you have any kind of recommendations that you would give out?
Well, it all depends on obviously how much money you have to spend on it. But I will say, for small businesses starting out, an iPhone or an Android phone with a good camera is plenty fine. The only thing that's really important, not the only thing, but the one thing you really want to make sure that's done right is the audio. So the one thing people will not forgive is bad audio in a video. So if you're talking and there's loud noises in the back, or it's muffled, or you can't hear it, like that's a perfect excuse to just click away. So make sure the audio is good. So wear a microphone if you can, if at all possible. In terms of shooting, great video, again, start with the iPhone. You can move up to a Canon camera, if that works for you. I would not make the process complicated. However, a lot of people tend to get caught up in the gear, but it's really about the messaging. I can't stress that enough. It's about who you are, what you believe, what you offer, what's your unique selling proposition. That's the most important thing. And if you talk about that earnestly, and you talk about that with passion, how it looks is not that important. It's really about your messaging.
And Paolo, is there a big jump? If someone has been doing video already, is it a significant jump going from, let's say the iPhone 12 that's out there now to an actual camera? Do you have to go pretty high on the camera to start to really see a benefit from making that change?
No. So I think, the good like a lot of people use Canons that shoot. I'm not an expert in cameras, by the way, but a mid-range, $800 or $1,000 camera is really gonna be an improvement, but you're not going to really see the improvement that much over your iPhone unless you are a cinematographer, unless you do the proper lighting and you change all that up. Then you're going to start to see some difference. But if you're not that, again, if you have the camera, fine. If you don't, use your cell phone. I'm really concerned about the messaging, who you are, who you want to be, and what's your message, and how do you tell that story? Are you funny? Are you serious? Are you an expert? Whatever it is. But just that's really the core of this branding effort, and that's really what's going to grow your business. So stepping up to a camera will help, but you need to have the skills in order to use all the technology of the camera and lighting and all that kind of stuff.
And Paolo, let me close you out with one question, and I know we could do an entire segment on this, but once you really start getting into this, you have all these different feeds of ways you're reaching customers. It seems to me there's a lot around automation and then how you feed that into your systems. Like I said, that's a whole other subject in and of itself, but could you just touch briefly upon that, how people should start looking at that type of automation of now all this information you're going to start pulling in?
Well, there are certain softwares on the market, and I'd have to pull up a list for you, that will help you automate posting to different social media platforms. So you put in one piece of content and it basically shoots out to different social media platforms. And YouTube would be unto its own, obviously. But I'll say this, posting, you know, if done right, you can do it all in like 10, 15 minutes a day. It shouldn't take a lot of time. Thinking about what you're going to say, however, is the time that's, you know, like the brain power, like the creative power is really where a lot of the effort's going to be needed here. Actual posting and coordinating that stuff can be done very simply with software though. And so I wouldn't stress about that. Again, I can just bring it back to your messaging is really the most important thing. That other stuff really starts to figure it out. And you're going to walk before you run, obviously. So you're not going to start out with a million different platforms and all kinds of stuff. You're going to start out maybe with just YouTube or maybe just Instagram or whatever it may be, maybe just blogging. And those types of things, once you start doing it, it gets a little bit easier. Then you add something else. So I wouldn't get caught up in the analysis paralysis, as I said earlier in the deck. I would just think about who you want to be. Start getting that message, putting it onto a medium somehow, whether it's written word or video or images, whatever it is, just start to produce it. And that other stuff, I promise you, you're gonna find your way there.
Paolo, thanks so much. I hear you. Focus on the messaging. We appreciate Hearst Connecticut Media Group for sponsoring, along with New Haven Register. And I'm sure we'll have you on for a fifth time, Paolo. So thank you.
I really appreciate it. Thanks, Garrett.
All right.